Hello, everybody, and welcome to this weekend's Movie Talk with Freedom. So, this weekend, we're obviously going to be talking about the opening weekend for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the only big new release that came out, and we'll also be updating, Black Adam, One Piece Film Red, which we'll definitely talk about that movie. So, starting the conversation, obviously, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. How did this movie open? $180 million. That is a very respectable opening, especially under the circumstances that this movie was given. So, first of all, it shattered the November record, which was held by Hunger Games Catching Fire, which opened to 158. I think if this movie had opened in the 170s or in the 165, then we'd be having a discussion of, yeah, this opening's not good. And second of all, it only came $20 million less than the first Black Panther, which is actually good when you think about it. Because, one, this movie does not have its star anymore. He died. And secondly, this is a much more dramatic movie. It has less action, although I don't think that holds it against the movie. I actually like this movie better than the first one. But it has a more dramatic turn of things. It's a sadder movie, which I think could have impacted the box office a little bit. It is also a much longer movie. It's 40 minutes longer than the first Black Panther, which I think could have also hurt its box office just a tad. But a lot of the industries and a couple people on the internet are ooh, oh, Marvel is having a bad time. That movie opened at 180. That's lower than the first one. That's only the 13th biggest opening of all time. Come on. It's the 13th biggest opening of all time. That means it beat out every other movie except for 12. Only 12 movies open bigger than that. And besides, 180 is nothing to scoff at. Again, only 13 movies in history have ever opened north of 180. And the first Black Panther, when it had its Sunday estimates, it was only estimated to be 192, and it ended up being 202. So there's a solid chance that Black Panther Wakanda Forever could be the biggest opening of the year if the estimates are that low. It could be a 188 or a 189 if it has the same percentage in jump that the first Black Panther had. You never really know. And besides, again, it lost a star. It's a longer movie. It has a more serious tone than the first movie. So I think the odds were always against this movie opening like the first one. And it is totally within range of the predictions and my expectations. The predictions had it opening 170 to 210. My expectation had it opening 180 to 220. So it still opened well within that range. It's not an underperformer, and it didn't overperform. In fact, for the overall industry projection, it's in the middle. So I don't think you can hold that against Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's doing solid, nice business. Again, in the Marvel movies that opened above it, by the way, are all team-up movies. Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, the first Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man No Way Home. However, the one outlier is the first Black Panther, which opened at 202, but that was just a cultural phenomenon. And this movie does not have any competition until Avatar. So I think the chances of this movie hitting $1 billion are good. Yes, the overall global opening was $330 million. Sure, that's over $100 million below Doctor Strange this year. And you might look at that and be like, ooh, it might not hit $1 billion. But guess what? Top Gun Maverick opened almost $100 million lower, and it was still able to sail way past $1 billion, even without China. So this kind of an opening is actually right in line with what you would expect for a movie that could make $1 billion. So the odds are not against its favor just yet until we see that second weekend drop. If it drops anywhere above 60%, it's a problem. If it drops mid to high 50s, that's just a normal blockbuster drop, and it might have a very hard time getting to $1 billion. If it drops low 50s, then we'll definitely be talking about $1 billion. But if it drops anything under 50, that's a cultural moment. Like the first Black Panther only dropped 45%. So this movie is still very impressive opening. We're not going to know its overall aspects until we see that crucial second weekend drop. However, there's more good news for Black Panther Wakanda Forever as it cleared 2 more hurdles that I said it needed to clear. It has more than 80% in Rotten Tomatoes. I always knew this movie was going to have a lower RT score. 84% is not bad. That actually makes it the second best RT score for a comic book movie of the year, only behind the Batman, which is 85%. So it's only 1 point lower than the Batman. That's very impressive. Even though me personally, I hated the Batman, I don't get the praise for it. I love Wakanda Forever. And it got an A cinema score from audiences, which is actually in line with that audience score on Rotten Tomatoes of 95%. That's very interesting. But an A cinema score, it's just a scooch below the first Black Panther, which got an A+. But movies that get A cinema scores, for the most part, have solid second weekend holds. Even movies that have A- cinema scores still have solid second weekend holds. Minions Rise Drew only dropped 56%. That had an A cinema score. Avengers Infinity War dropped 55%. That had an A cinema score. Captain Marvel dropped 54%. That had an A cinema score. So I think with that, it'll probably drop low 50s because of its A cinema score. And it's not opening at a bad time either. Last year, Spider-Man No Way Home had an A+, and it dropped 67%. But that's because Christmas Eve and the day before Christmas Eve was part of that movie's second weekend, which are not big movie-going days. As for the rest of the box office, Black Adam, what a disaster. Sure, it may have had a solid fourth weekend hold going up against a Marvel movie, making another $8.5 million, but it's only at $350 global, 150 domestic. But that's not good. That is really not good. That because of how much it's dropping on a weekly basis, I can now tell you it is almost guaranteed at this point not to cross $400 million, which is a disaster. This movie needed $600 million to break even, and it's going to come more than $200 million below that. So that means Warner Brothers will lose at least $100 to $200 million on this movie. It'll be one of the biggest flops of all time. That is shocking. I don't think you're going to see another Black Adam. I don't think Warner Brothers is going to continue on this path of the DCEU. Coming in third place, Ticket to Paradise. I just want to let you guys know we're not going to talk about fourth place, because fourth place was a movie that's been out for 10 weeks, and it only dropped 5%. I just wanted to let you guys know that. But third place, Ticket to Paradise, it dropped another 29%. That's solid. That's actually really solid. It's not as strong as last weekend, but it was never expected to be as strong as last weekend. But making another $6 million, especially against a Marvel movie like Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that's impressive. It's at $150 million global. I expect it to come, at least... It needs probably another $15 million to break even, and I think it'll do that just domestic. Fifth place was Smile, once again, in its seventh weekend. Wow, for a horror movie, it's having really strong legs. That's just a 42% drop, making another $2.3 million. It crossed the century mark, 100 million mark. Very important milestone, very impressive for a horror movie like this. And for a movie that only had a $17 million budget. Globally, it's over $200 million. That's even more impressive, in my opinion. And I would love to take a moment to talk about the disaster that is One Piece Film Red. This movie dropped a eyebrow raising, not even eyebrow raising, this is just a disastrous 84% in its second weekend. This is the biggest second weekend drop for any anime related movie. You know, other anime movies have dropped like in the 60s and 70s. This dropped in the 80s. It is the sixth biggest second weekend drop of any movie ever of all time. That's shocking. It only made $1.45 million for the whole weekend. Domestic total so far is just around $12 million. That's what most industries expected it to open with. But to have a second weekend to have 12.8 million, that's just a disaster. At least it had Japan, which got it up to 162 global, but like, you do not see 80% plus drops. And in the past month, with Halloween Ends and this movie, we've seen 2 80+% drops. I think this is kind of concerning for the future of Hollywood. So, I mean, I don't think this movie is going to do well going forward. Speaking of which, Halloween Ends dropped out of the top 10 and dropped an eyebrow raising 90%. And it's only at like 63.8 million. So now it is not going to match Friday the 13th. Last weekend I said it had a chance to match Friday the 13th 65. It's not going to do that. It's going to be the most front-loaded movie of all time, most likely, or at least one of them. But yep, here's the rest of the top 10. Lyle Lyle Crocodile was the one that was number 4 that I said I would not talk about. It only dropped 5%, making over $3 million. I don't understand how this movie is doing this because, like, it's been losing theaters. So it dropping that little for the amount of theaters that were lost this weekend is mighty, mighty impressive. As for Pray for the Devil, it only dropped another 48%. Banshees of Inisherin dropped 17%. As you can notice, everything had a drop. Everything dropped. You know, last weekend we had like 3 movies raise. This weekend you have every single movie drop, and that's thanks to Black Panther. As we discussed, One Piece Film Red, what a disaster. Until dropped 67%, Armageddon Time dropped 56%. And I know when we were talking about One Piece Film Red, it said number 7. That was before my website updated and said it was actually number 8. So I just want to kind of apologize for that because it was number 8. But yep, as for this coming weekend, you have 2 new releases. You have The Menu, which the industry is expecting it to make another $9 million. And you have She Said, which the industry is expecting it to make $6 million. So Black Panther Wakanda Forever will easily hold on to the second place, to the second spot. The question, though, what's it told? Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you guys next week, and I hope you guys have a good time. Bye.